What's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's Tactical Foul. I got a great guest today. I cannot wait to introduce him. He is a first-team coach at Hounslow Women's FC, FA Level 2 coach, director of inclusive fitness lifestyle. You've actually heard his name a couple times on here through different coaches, especially the guys who I have to say formerly at Charlton. Obviously, everyone's making moves, and with everything opening up, different opportunities are opening up as well, which is great. Like this opportunity to have Anthony Dwayne Murray on. Welcome, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate being on the show.
Yeah.
I've been a fan watching. Obviously, I've seen Carl and Michael do their thing on here, and the fact that you extended the invite out to me, I'm happy to be here, man.
No, for sure. I mean, obviously, I see you on Twitter and those different things, and then obviously. With Michael, you did the interview and different things like that, and it was a no brainer with everything going on to have you on, and I knew it'd be a fun chat, so I'm definitely excited to have you on for sure.
Well, definitely, man. Wicked.
Awesome. So I think with all of these things, it's an amazing way to kind of give a chance for people to know you that obviously that know me that have never heard your story or anything like that. So what I like to do obviously is kind of start right from the beginning and just hear where you started, your background early on in football and different things like that.
No, of course. Yeah, so with myself, grew up in a council estate with my mom and my dad. As I was transitioning into high school, they split up. But very much from a young age, again, I've been involved in football.
Right.
So I was lucky enough to. It's crazy because the coach or the manager, shall I say, who I'm working with at Hounslow, he was the one who gave me the very chance to play for QPR when I was a young boy. He took me out of my estate and basically spoke to my parents and was like, we like your son. You think he can play? Let's get him over at QPR to play a couple of games and see what happens from there. And very much from that sort of age, from a young age, from about 9, 10. I was lucky enough to sort of play in a few sort of academies in terms of QPR, Leyton Orient, and Charlton. Obviously, recently working with the women's sections with Carl and stuff like that. So, very much like I said, I've been in football for a long time. When I was at Charlton, a lot of the young kids from my estate knew that I was with Charlton, so they was preparing to go into a football tournament. They were coaching themselves. And they very much came up to me and was like, Ant, like, you play for Charlton, right? Is there any way that you can coach us? Just give us a couple of drills. So I was like, you know what? Why not? So I'm very much about helping people, got involved, started helping them, went to the tournament. And, if you ain't heard it before, we very much got whooped that day. They got their butts handed to them, literally. It was a good eye opener. It was a good eye opener to sort of becoming a coach, and they very much got me onto my level one. They went to the local council and was like, and he's been doing a lot of work with us. How can we want to help him out? All the parents, and they basically went to them and said, can we get Ant his qualification somehow? And next year, I'm getting a call and saying, Ant, there's a level 1 course on this at this time for a week. Do you want to jump on it? And I was just like, huh? Like, who are you? What are you calling me for? Like, where'd you get my number from? It was a bit weird, and very much that got me onto the course, and that sort of started my football journey in terms of coaching.
Nice. So I want to kind of step back a little bit because I know I hear the word, and so I imagine other people don't necessarily, at least in America, probably aren't as familiar with it. So when you're saying like a council estate, what would be, I guess maybe the equivalent in America, or just kind of what is that exactly? Just so people can kind of get an understanding of where you come from.
I guess you'd consider it a project.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
It's just like it's a bunch of like buildings, high rise for social housing, people who probably not on the best pay scale in terms of their families and stuff like that. So, very much grew up in that sort of environment. And for me, my childhood, to be fair, I would never turn around and go, you know what, I wish I had a better childhood. I grew up a lot.
Yeah.
Very early, being in a council estate, it helped me to become the man I am today. So for some other people, it might have been a bad experience, but for me, very much, I think it definitely was the making for me.
No, absolutely, for sure. And one part that's interesting is that you were saying that obviously you have this connection that goes on longer with the manager and coach, obviously. But something that it's interesting because it was kind of my idea of what an estate meant. But in America, we don't really have that as much. At least, definitely not in football, where you have these people from, you know, from bigger clubs or different things that can provide that go into the that are in the communities and like looking for kids to give opportunities to. It's not happening as much, so it is kind of an interesting thing. And is that kind of like the norm, at least from your perspective of seeing that? Does that happen often? At least I should say.
Personally, I wouldn't say it happens often as enough. I think a lot of talent, especially in England, a lot of talent does come from council estates.
Okay.
But they just don't make it through the system. There's always an excuse to why they're not getting taken through to academies and stuff like that. So, we've seen it. There's a young man who I played with called Yannick Balassi.
Yeah, some people might
he was
know.
at Everton, etc.
Yeah.
Me and him played together. As young boys. So again, like he's proof the pudding. Like it can happen.
Right.
Raheem Sterling came from a similar background as Yannick Balassi. Obviously, he's made it pro, but it doesn't happen often with a lot of these things. And most of like these academies, they're not actually in London. They're not in the middle of London. They're not like somewhere you can just quickly jump on a bus, a couple of stops and get to. These academies are like way out in the middle of nowhere. Parents, we already got parents who are working like 2-3 jobs to try and make ends meet kind of thing.
Right.
And then getting to these academies is just like, it's not going to happen. And that's sort of part of my reason with some of the academies I was at, why I couldn't continue, because my parents couldn't take me to like the likes of Enfield or Hertfordshire or Lee Valley or wherever it may be. Like it just wasn't going to happen. So I think that's part of the reason there needs to be more academies where the location's more in the city rather than moving towards the outskirts, if you know what I mean.
And I'm guessing, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just assuming this is the reason they're not right in the city is because they're moving to obviously like nicer areas and stuff that are a little bit farther away from like right in the city, which is where I think in most of the world, most of the people who like that are under like probably either the poverty line or the median income usually live right in the middle of the city, the densest parts of the city, because it's where the cheapest housing is and stuff like that. Is that kind of the idea of what goes on there?
Basically, yeah. So that's the thing, that what will happen is there's, with a lot of academies, for example, so you have academy, which is obviously like you could say the pinnacle. That's like where a lot of kids want to be. And then just under it, you normally have sort of like the development phase. So it's like if you can't make it into academy, you'll just sort of you'll be with the club just in that sort of like underneath level. Or it would be, what's the other word for it? What I could call it would be, oh gosh, can't remember the top of my head. Been on football for so long, like I can't remember.
Yeah, it's all right.
The main thing I'm getting at is those sort of development academies, you could say, they'll be based in London.
Okay.
And then when it comes to the real business, the academy, when it comes to start playing serious games and stuff like that, that's when it's like, cool, now you have to move elsewhere. So for example, like Arsenal, for example, their academy is based in London. It's quite easy to get to. It might take a couple of trains. That's quite cool. But you get other clubs like, let's say, for example, Tottenham, a little bit further out. Chelsea, that's in Surrey, that's a bit further out as well. Like, they're not in London. So it just makes things harder for young boys to travel.
Right.
You can't have a 15-year-old like traveling out that far to Surrey. Surrey's like out of London. And then that's, if you're taking a train, that could easily be £20 a journey. And if you ain't making no money, like, how's your parents supposed to afford all of that?
Yeah, it's
So
impossible. No, for sure. And
it is definitely.
I wonder, like, because I guess I look at like Germany. Obviously, Bayern's a massive club, so maybe it's just a little bit different. But I feel like in Germany, there's a lot more. Even Dortmund, I guess, to the extent there's a lot more like when they get these like kids to come in and like from different areas, they like move them. Like they actually have them like have housing and stuff like that. Is that something that you think would be able to help? But I mean, obviously, not every club. That would just be kind of the upper echelon clubs probably are the ones that can afford that for the most part. But is that something you think even that would help a lot of those people out, or how do you think that would look?
You know what? The thing is, it does happen, but it tends to happen with like the more superstar rising talent. So
Right.
obviously, like for example, like Pulisic, you know, he was in America,
Yep.
scouted, and obviously been brought over to Germany. And lucky enough, he had very supportive parents, and his father moved over with him. And it does happen, but again, like you said, it can't happen. It just doesn't happen for everybody.
Right.
So this is just one of those things. Like I would say that it needs to kind of happen, but at the same time, it's just like if you move a child out of their area, this is another barrier. What happens? You move them out of their area, then it becomes another issue because now they're in an area where they don't really know anyone
Yep.
apart from their eventual teammates. They're taking them out of an environment which they're very much used to, away from maybe one or both parents and stuff like that. Like some players do get put in digs, so they'll have a family they stay with for, could be 4 or 5 nights a week, and then they come home on the weekends or on certain days and stuff like that, or every couple of weeks.
Right.
But again, that's just another barrier. Again, so it's just like I feel that if you're, I don't know, part of me feels if you're a London club, you just need to be based in London in ways. I know obviously there's talent all over the world, all over the country, but it's just a difficult matter to deal with.
No. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and like we have our issues here. Obviously, we have way more issues. We don't. One, our biggest issue for me is that we have a closed league. So that's obviously, which is a big topic, which we'll definitely delve into a little bit later. But I mean, even our academies, which it's the craziest thing in the world. Even our academies, there's only a handful of the MLS clubs where it's not for pay. Like the players actually have to pay to be in the academy. It's like, this makes no sense. You guys are $1 million, maybe $1 billion organizations, and you're having kids pay to play to hopefully become a professional through your academy. It's insane. So it, as much as like there needs to be change made for like to be more accessible, like what you're talking about, I think there needs to be widespread change to be more accessible. For me, it's like we're not even close to that. So I'm still envious. I wish. I mean, I obviously I coach as my profession, not in the professional game, but the youth game. And even my club or any club is not as accessible as it should be. It's too expensive. There's people that get left behind because they can't afford the things, and there, I obviously, it's kind of like it's a tough one because like, well, part of the reason it's expensive is because I actually get paid. So it's like, well, do I want to stop getting paid? Probably not.
Exactly that. That's the thing.
So it's a little bit of a tough one. So
Of course. It's a difficult one because even like there's teams in the women's game like who they charge, and don't get me wrong, I totally understand like not every club can afford to run, so players need to kind of pay. So I always agree that it needs to be something in a decent budget. Like if it was okay, we're going to charge you £100 for the season, that's not too bad. If parents want to pay £10 on a monthly basis, that's reasonable and affordable.
Right.
But there's other teams where they're turning around and going, oh yeah, we're going to charge you £400 for the season, and it's like, excuse me, £400 for the season, especially like now, like we've been in a pandemic, a lot of people haven't been working, and they're already putting up, it's like £400 for the season. Does that make sense? No. Like
Yeah.
you've got to find ways. You got to, I know sponsors. There's lots of sponsors who are pulling out and stuff like that because they can't afford either to sponsor teams and stuff like that. But it's just like no, like it can't work like that.
Oh, well, I'm gonna tell you that if you heard the price of how much it is to pay or to play for a season, you would be absolutely petrified of how much it is in America.
Please, please, please entertain me. Please tell
Well,
me.
I will tell you that for a kid that's just coming in, a
Yeah,
full kit, just kit. We're not talking about anything else. Kit is, I mean, because if it's Nike, which is what like our club is, it's probably close to $400 just in
and
itself.
that's just the kit.
Yeah, that's just the kit. Oh yeah.
And that's what for two. Like I'm assuming home and away kit.
Home. It's home. It'll be home, away. Probably be a third one.
Yeah.
And then training, two training kits. So well, two training jerseys and one and training shorts and socks as well. So like when you rationalize it to people, it's like, well, I mean, for me to spend this much money on Nike stuff, it's probably going to cost that much anyways. Plus, there's a little customization. So like it it's able to be rationalized from that perspective, but like
No, of course.
when you look at the thing, like at it from just like a sheer numbers perspective, like how much is it? It's just like it's mind boggling. And like and my club's not even like where I'm at. My location is not even near how much it is other places. And I'm from Michigan, which is like even our top clubs, how much it costs to play for them is nowhere near what it costs to play in say New York or Florida or California or Texas. Like it's probably even it's in the tens of thousands to play for the full year and things like that. It's and yeah, and now granted there are scholarships and stuff like that, and there are like our club does give scholarships and gives quite a few, like quite a bit of them, but the thing is it's like you get your club fee, which is like to play, right? Like you get that stuff scholarshiped, but you like these there's people that can't afford to pay for the uniform. So it's like what like it like or like oh you have a hotel, like you need to get a hotel for a tournament, like people you know what I mean, like it's crazy where it's at. And obviously like there's no good answer, or I imagine all these problems would have been fixed. And if we had the answers, we would be sitting a little more lavishly because we would we'd be making some money because we have all the answers. But
No,
it's where we're at. I think we can probably agree that the accessibility just in general, whether it's the most accessible academies or the least accessible academies, they can probably all still be improved upon when it comes to being accessible to
definitely.
everybody.
No, of course. For me, I do feel like, especially let's say, for example, let's say grassroots level where you're having to pay some sort of fee for the season. Like my thing is, don't get me wrong. I know we all love Nike and Adidas and stuff like that, but sometimes like if you can't get it on a discount, do we need to actually really go for Nike and Adidas? Can't we go for something a little bit cheaper and make it, like you said, make it more accessible? But this is the thing that we tend to go for. We could tend to go for your Nikes and your Adidas and things like that, and then parents are struggling. I've had in my lifetime, because of the amount of clubs I've worked for and been a sports development officer and stuff. I had parents literally cry to me saying because they want the best for their child,
Yeah.
but they don't want their child to be bullied because it gets out that they can't afford to actually be at the club.
Yeah.
Like it's just little things like that, and I think, okay, why can't we just go for something cheaper?
Yep.
And then at least like financially, it's not an issue for the player, for the parents. It's something that they can afford, and we can just focus on the coaching. But
Yeah, I've kind of always fallen in that category, and obviously, as I progress through it, it's just like my kids could show up in T-shirts with numbers on the back, like just plain T-shirts, whatever. Obviously, you can have the logo of the team or whatever, and shorts. I don't really care because it's like that's what they're wearing is not going to really be that representative of what they are as a team or how they play or how I am as a coach and how we develop and anything like that. So it's like if we can make this cheaper, then why wouldn't we? But that's a losing.
it reminds me of when I was growing up. Like we made on my estate, it was quite big. We had there's two football teams that we made on the estate. So there's one team called Smokers FC, and basically we all turned around and decided, you know what, I wasn't a smoker. They just signed me up. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll play for you guys. And we went to our local, sports shop, and we bought this kit called, like, I don't even know if they actually even sell this kit anymore, but it's called Patrick, and it's like dirt cheap. Like shorts were probably like £2.50. The top was probably a fiver. Like you basically got a full kit for like £15 basically, and you get your number in the back and stuff like that. And I just remember thinking, 15 quid. That's actually decent, And then I can't put after buying the kit. I think literally a few weeks later there was a game between Smokers FC and the Eagles. The other team was called the Eagles,
right.
And they were basically almost paying for me. They were like, so if the Eagles beat the Smokers FC, then we get to sign Anthony. And I was just like, okay, played the game, and then next I'm being signed by another team for a packet of crisps. So I clearly wasn't worth much, but
Oh wow, yeah, no, that's funny. I mean that makes me think of right now, like we're so with this we have our we'll call men's league. It's kind of like I guess it's kind of like a not five-a-side, but more like Sunday league or something along those lines. Okay. And we do that, and so we've it's called Follow FC. We've rebranded. We've had a team for a long time, just like people that I grew up with and different things like that, and now we've made it part of this and everything like that. And so we had a buddy that we all know that's been on another team, like a rival team, and so we're like, listen, when we beat you this year, you're gonna have to join us for the summer. And so we beat him in the final, and he's like, all right. He's like, can I have this number? We're like, yeah, absolutely. Come on in, buddy. And hey, it's still going, even into our middle 20s. We're fighting for the best players. That's how it goes. So,
yeah.
One thing I did want to ask, because I know you talked about it a little bit with your parents. What kind of influence did they have on you in terms of just like with the football and like, in that certain thing, and maybe like the culture that they had and that they brought forward for you?
So my dad, he wasn't a football guy. He was more of a cricket man. So giving Brian Lara and Courtney Ambrose any day of the week, that was his thing. He loved cricket. My mum, she was more the football person. So my dad was always like, it's great to be involved with sports and stuff, but main thing is get education. Right. Like life is hard out here. It's not easy. He's always taught me from young, you need to work hard, especially because of the color of your skin. You need to work a little. You need to work a little bit harder. And he's always been a hard worker. Even till now, like he's in retirement age and he's still grinding right now. So he's been a massive influence in terms of that. My mom, yeah, she was a proper sporty. She was a tomboy basically when she was growing up. So she got me into football, boxing, rugby, like you name it. She loved it all. So
nice.
Yeah, she was the one who mainly got me into football. And anytime there's a summer camp going on, like I would always run to her because I know she would understand. So she'd be like, yeah, you want to go to this football camp? All right, great. How much does it cost? All right, cool. I guess we can make it work. And then, she'll go. But when I look back, I can see that there was times where she probably worked a few extra shifts just to make sure that I could go there and be comfortable and know that I was, looked after and stuff like that. So, yeah, both of them had a massive influence on me in terms of sport and, just trying to have a good life, really.
I mean, I know, like you as a parent, that's really all you want is to give your kids as good of a life as you can, right? So, I mean, that's I would say mission accomplished, like with them. And when I hear about your mom and you talk about your mom, it makes me kind of think, is that a major factor why you kind of are where you're at in terms of coaching on the women's side and how kind of it seems like that's your I don't want to put you in that box, but it seems like that's your lane, that you want to be in the women's game and further that. Is that kind of something you would attribute, just your mom's like kind of inspiring that?
Yeah, you know what? My mom definitely got me into football. She got me into women's football. Um, I was lucky to grow up in the era that I did because there was great ballers like Eartha Pond, Rachel Yankee, who were, a lot of young women, even boys, aspired to be like them because they were proper ballers, street ballers, like rough, rough on the ball, skillful, like lots of flair, and they've gone on to have successful careers. So, I only really thought about it till probably maybe the last year, but yeah, like I'm very much part of the women's game, and it's not even about putting me into a box. That is my lane. I really love and enjoy the women's game, and I will do anything in my power to make sure that the women's game is improving. The players that I work with get the support they need. If other players who I don't even necessarily know, I've never coached, but they reach out to me and ask for advice, I'll make sure that I can do what I can for them. I very much want the women's game to be successful as much as it can. The fact that the women's game has got this new TV rights deal over here is amazing. I'm very much looking forward to it. Like we can. There's a lot of things that we can look into and go, oh God, yeah, but this ain't right and that ain't right and da da da. But the point of it being basically is it's got visibility. Yep. That's the main thing. It's got visibility. I think if at this stage, if there was too much going on with it, it'll probably get scrutinized in certain ways. But the main thing is it's got visibility. It's now being shown on, BBC and Sky Sports and stuff like that. Perfect.
Nah, I mean that's all that matters, and I mean like I don't mean this in a bad way, but like I think when you look at that, people compare it to the men's game as far as like the TV rights and stuff, and it's like you can't really do that. It's not really, and so like you have to, like of course like you should push it as far as you can, and like I coach. I mean next year I'm going to be coaching all girls teams. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a full girls coach. I do coach boys as well, but I'm definitely. I lean heavier on the girl side right now. Mainly, it's just something I'm good at, and so the club uses me in that facet. But when I look at it like this, it's like you can't really compare it to like what the men get because unfortunately, where the women are probably 50 years plus behind, and so like that's not good. But at least like we're seeing like not just like minimal steps. We're seeing like real visible steps to like get it closer and get it competing on like the global scale of like in different sports because I mean when we look like the United States, like obviously the women have been traditionally very very good as far as just how we have done and everything like that, but it's still not even as visible as it should be. I mean like for the longest time, and I don't think people would realize this, like our women's league had housed a lot of top players as well, but it was always hurting for money because there's no TV rights, there's no like it's the visibility like you're talking about. So it's that fact is absolutely insane. And so the fact that we're starting to see more TV rights, more like high profile stuff, it's just it's so much better. Like and you need that. You got to start from somewhere and then you build off it. Because the truth is, like, if we give them a platform, these women are gonna absolutely kill it, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Like in America, the number one sport for girls is soccer or football,
yeah,
and like which makes a lot of sense. But we don't. I mean, we don't even look at it like that. Like it's like the percentage wise compared to like any even like boys sport, it's not even close. Like that's how many more girls play that sport than anything else. So it's like we should probably prop this up a little bit more. I don't know.
I totally agree. Like you said, it is 50 years behind, unfortunately, but it's taken some huge steps to move forward massively. And I remember when you're just about lucky to sort of see one game, and that was kind of like the FA Cup final you'd kind of see, and that would more or less be the only women's game you'd sort of see here in the UK every year. And then games start to creep up here online and things like that. And 10 years ago, the Women's Super League was created, and now like 10 years fast forward, like it's going from strength to strength. So for me now, from this still happening, I do feel like in the next 10, 20 years, we'll start to see more leagues from whether it's the US, France, Spain, starting to be shown more. Like this year, the Spanish league has now become fully professional in the women's game.
Yep.
That's another step forward. So things are starting to move forward in its right place. The one thing I do believe in terms of the women's game is that it doesn't need to be the same as the men's game.
Yep.
They have their own platform, their own script that they can rewrite and do things their way. It doesn't need to be, okay, well, the men's are doing this, so the women's got to do it. It doesn't have to be that way. And that's the one thing that I can appreciate, that, there's going to be loads of, how can I say it? There's going to be loads of, how can I say it? Basically, there's going to be loads of opportunities in the women's game to basically almost like fight for society, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing, the men's game obviously has been running for a long time, etc. It didn't have, a step back in like the women's game has, but I feel like with the women's game, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for things to open up and things to be tackled. And that's the one thing I can appreciate. I've got a daughter. She's 3 years old, so she's not gonna understand much now. But I'd love to think if she did decide to play football or any sport, that some of the things that's happening now, will benefit her in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, that's that, and yeah, I think you see it right now, right? Like, you have so many of these women who are becoming stars in their own rights, and they're using that and trying to push the game forward, trying to push, just everything forward that they possibly can. And yeah, I think it's a really big opportunity. And I think I don't see any reason that it's not in, like you said, 10, 20 years, you're seeing leagues as televised as these other leagues. And again, like, not only does the women's game not have to be the same as the men's, the greatest thing about just football in general is that there is an infinite amount of ways to play the game. There is no right way to do it. And the Premier League's different than, Serie A, and Serie A is different than, La Liga, and so on and so forth. And it's going to be the same thing in the women's game. And it's just different brands of the game that, pure football fans are going to just enjoy all of it. And then there's going to be pockets of fans that are like, I like this style more. And the fact that we'll have the opportunity to have all of these, leagues, and watch all of these leagues, whether it's women or men, there's nothing better than that in my mind.
Of course, definitely. For me, the more different brands of football we can see, I find that entertaining. And it's only us as coaches, that's only going to help and benefit us. So for me, that's great.
No, absolutely. Though I do have one question. Do you think they're going to have to change the name of the league though now, after the whole debacle with the Super League, the Women's Super League? They got to change it now. They've because these guys have ruined the name, right?
No, there's only one Super League out there, and that's the Women's Super League.
All right, fair enough. There you go. That's the way to save it. Okay, I appreciate that. I do want to get into like a little bit of the coaching and different things like that, and we kind of talked about how you started and obviously introduced to where you're at. But I am interested to kind of hear, just like you talked about it, right? Like, what were the difficulties for you, especially trying to break into coaching, or even the difficulties you face even now, like that you feel in your, I guess, present day coaching career?
You know what? I've always felt with trying to get a career in football, it's, for me, I think there's always two things. And I don't know if it's the same in America, but I feel like with here is, one, you're always trying to chase badges, because when you apply for jobs, they're always like, well, you haven't got this badge, you haven't got this badge. So you're constantly, all right, great, I've got the next badge. And then there's like, oh, sorry, like, there's always just like, it's like the goalpost is just constantly being moved.
Yep.
And it's just like, come on, like, can't you just bring me in, and maybe I might just be someone you're looking for without the badge? And a lot of people just don't understand that. So for me, I've always been grateful, and I've said this to Carl many times. I've said it to him like, mate, I'm grateful for what he done for me and bring me into Charlton, because I remember he contacted me and he was like, and seen your CV, like to get you in for a trial coaching session and see how things go. So coached the session and straight away struck up a great bond with the players. The session wasn't too bad, and straight away afterwards he goes, and like, I liked your session, but I'm not just bringing you in for the session. You straight away you got the girls' attention, and you got on with them, and I feel that's beneficial more than anything, and that's helped me progress through. Like if Carl wasn't in that position at Charlton, I would have never got that job. I'd have literally just been looking for my next gig. I probably, so for me, it's like I'm very thankful for that. But again, coaching badges are massively expensive. Like just to go into the UEFA B, the next one, that's like in some places £1,000, some places £2,000, some places £3,000. It's just like, okay, so why is it costing more here? And it's the same qualification. I just don't get it, especially in like just the United Kingdom. But yeah, and then again, the financial side of things is like, you've got people who's gone out to university, they spent 30 grand on getting a university degree. They've gone and spend another, let's say, 5 grand getting their qualifications in terms of, level 1, level 2, UEFA B, maybe UEFA A. And then there's always, oh, well, you still got to be a volunteer. And it's just like, what? I know people say that it shouldn't be about money, but at the end of the day, if I go and apply for a job, you expect to get paid. It shouldn't always be voluntary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, and look, I know that like this was something that I had to learn because like I was so excited to get into the game that I was doing so much for free, and finally the person that got me in, one of my best friends, he was my roommate at one point as well. Like he's like, you are at a certain point you have to get paid for this. It's your job, and I think that's what people don't realize. It's like just because that we are doing a job within a game. Because at the end of the day, it is a game. It is still a job. It is still a profession. And, people deserve to get paid for it because there's a lot of time that goes into it. People look at it, it's like, oh, you only worked for – I have 2 sessions in a night. They're like, oh, you only worked for 3 hours. It's like, oh, you think that I wasn't thinking about this or planning these things out or on the phone with a parent or working something out? Like, no, there's more that goes into it. And don't get me wrong, I would love it if those 3 hours and then whatever it is on the weekend was it. If I just got to coach, that'd be amazing. But it's a job, and there's a lot more that goes into it. And if you're doing a job, and obviously, especially for a prolonged period of time, look, I'm all about helping people out. I'll go and help and do a session or whatever it is, no problem. If you are doing a job, especially for a period of time, people deserve to get paid for it, especially if you're putting your own money into it with buying equipment, buying transportation, getting yourself there. Obviously, like you said, the coaching licenses and badges are ridiculously expensive. If you're doing that, you deserve to get reimbursed or compensated in some way. And that's so anyone listening, stop doing stuff for free so much. You deserve to get paid. Know your worth.
I definitely think you got to know your own worth at the end of the day. So it's like you said, it's great. I love to help people, but at the same time, I'm probably one of the many coaches who've now become quite accepting of it. Yeah. So I'll have my job where I'm making money, and then I just know I'm going to do football, and that's going to be free. And it's one of those things. I'm just like, yeah, it is what it is. But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, I guess my payment is knowing that, 5 of my players I might progress to the first team, or a couple of my other players have gone to another club and they've now playing first team football, or things like that, or we finished in a certain position in the league, whatever it may be. But
right.
I guess now I've just been more accepting of it. But yeah, it's just crazy because I do think things need to change. I think I'm not saying that the game everything needs to be about it being financial, like a financial gain or financial reward, but at the same time, there's a lot of people who have worked hard, like yourself, you're planning coaching sessions for a few hours, really analyzing what the next step is for your team, dealing with parents and things like that, dealing with leagues, going to meetings, equipment, all that sort of stuff. And it's, there's not even really an eyelid battered sort of thing. So, I think there's a lot of coaches out there that need to start to really be, appreciated financially from that.
No, I agree. And I know that it's definitely like with all the problems we have in America, I guess that's the one thing that we're definitely more compensated here than we are there. There's no doubt about it. I'm well aware of that, and I can't be upset about it. but obviously I can still want that. Just because like I do it and I get paid for it. There's people that are working as hard, maybe harder. I like to think that there's not really that many people that are working too much harder than me. I kind of pride myself on that, but and if anyone is going through even close to what I kind of went through to get to where I'm at, like, oh, they deserve to get paid. And honestly, like, I'll suffer through it because like I'll take that. I'll put myself on the shield type thing, but I wouldn't want anyone else to have to do what I did and suffer because it's not fun. And honestly, I still work for the same club, but it's not right. And they know, and that's what it is. So, no, I think we're definitely on the same page. One thing I do want to like take a little step back because I didn't get to ask you about it, but one thing you've kind of blew up a little bit, something you did recently back in the women's game. Obviously, I grew up in a household. My parents were also separated, but on one half, I grew up in a household with two sisters, my mother and my aunt. So I know all about living, like being around women and living with women. So it is nice to hear from that perspective, like just like how invested you actually are, because like I don't think people realize like until they like get to see what you're actually doing. And actually, I see some of the tweets and some of the things that get tweeted at you. Some people still don't even realize how invested you are actually. But obviously with women and the menstrual cycle and all those things, and it affects them. Obviously, it's completely different than anything we as men deal with. And, you obviously, I guess like kind of like a preparedness like kit and different things for when your players are dealing with those type of things. And that's something that kind of blew up a little bit, and deservedly so, because I think it's something I never thought of. Like I said, I coach girls. A lot of them are younger, but I coach a high school girls team. There's no reason that like I can't be just as prepared for something like that. And so that opened my eyes a little bit. And so I'm glad that you are getting the exposure from something like that, because it's a great idea. So I just want to kind of hear a little bit of that thought process and what you thought of kind of that blowing up.
Yeah. So this all started at one of my previous clubs where one of the players, they didn't approach me. They approached one of their, their teammates, and they were asking for, a sanitary pad because they said that it was the time of the month. Right. So I was like, I kind of overheard, and I thought, all right, I was kind of listening, but I just kind of left them to it, kind of thing. And then the couple of players that she approached turned around and said that no, they haven't, da da da. So I said, all right. So I approached her myself and took her to the side. I didn't want to make a massive deal with it about it. And I was just like, I kind of heard that it was the time of the month. I'll try and see if I can get one of the other players to, give you one. So I asked another player, and then she got it. And that's what basically happened. So from that time, I kind of just sort of like sat there and thought to myself, I was like, battering my brains for months. I was thinking like, what can I do as a coach to try and like really help my players, especially because, the women's game and the men's game is totally different,
Right.
And if you're part of the women's game, this is something that naturally should be looked upon. I don't need to necessarily know the ins and outs from a degree basis level, but even if I know the basics of what's going on, and I can help players help my players as people, but help them as a player as well in terms of performance, then great. So I kind of thought, you know what, the next step I make, the next club I'm with, I'm basically, I'm not gonna act like I've got loads of money coming in, but if I can provide sanitary towels for my players, then I'll do that, just to make sure that if anything can happen, we're humans. You could easily, start packing your bag. You can forget your football trainers. You can forget your shin pads. These things happen. So why, you could easily forget to pack your sanitary towels or pads or whatever it may be. So that's why I decided to do it. So for the last few weeks, months, I've been speaking to my colleagues, and they've openly said, you know what, like, I'm actually glad that a man actually wants to hear about this kind of thing. So I've just been sort of trying to learn bits and pieces about it.
Right.
So when I did put the tweet out, I got loads of great responses saying that, it's great to see that a man's
Absolutely.
wanting to, be a part of this, because, 50% of the world is female, and it's not going to go away. It's not something that just, goes away. It happens. It's very much here for forever. So, the fact that you actually want to learn about it and help your teammates, great. And then, got a few negative tweets, saying I got mental health and all sorts of problems going on in my life. I was like, okay, well, fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion, even though you're a troll.
Yeah, 100%.
It was great, because one of the strength and conditioning coaches that I worked with before, he very much sent me over some documents, because he very much done a piece based around the menstrual cycle. So he sent that over to me to read. There's another gentleman who's at Oxford United. He's a strength and conditioning coach as well, Dean Tetley. He's very much said, and whenever you're ready, give me a Zoom call, and I'm happy to discuss this with you so you can help your players. So I'm glad, like, that there's a lot of people out there willing to support, and very much are in the same sort of mind frame that I'm in. They're very, very, very much want to help their players, and they've said to me, "Oh, and I do the same thing. I put a few, sanitary towels or tampons into my first aid bag, just so they're there for the players, or into another bag where the players know where it is. They don't need to approach you for it. They don't need to get into conversation. They just know that it's there. They can collect it, and there's no sort of, like, you could say, embarrassment or anything like that." So, like I said, I'm very much about the players, and if I can support them and help them any way I can, I will do that. If a player was struggling financially and that's something that they needed, I'd happily do that.
Right. No, that's it's amazing. You know what I mean? Like it, and I say it's amazing because, like, I think you probably look at it and probably, like, it's really not that big of a thing to do, but it's amazing in the fact that, like, it's not something that is actually thought of as much as it should be, considering, like you said, 50% of the world are women, and 100. I'm probably wrong, but I would say 100% of women, like, especially that are playing, have to deal with this. So it's, how is this not something that doesn't seem to be talked about or doesn't seem to be actually handled on a regular basis? And because at the end of the day, like, we're here to help our players, help the people, and that's something that it may never even be needed, but the one time it is, it's gonna mean everything, and it's gonna put them at ease. It's gonna, because that could be an embarrassing situation, like you said, for that player. She was probably extremely concerned with, like, because she's like, oh, like, and the fact that you were able to handle it, or obviously a teammate was able to help, but if even that thought's never even in their mind, like, okay, I know that I'm taken care of here. Like, it just makes it an even better environment to know that you're always taken care of with every aspect of your session, your practice, life, whatever it is. And so I think that's why I think it's amazing that just a small thing, a small gesture, it really is kind of a big gesture in the same breath. So I do think it's amazing, for sure.
Thank you. No, definitely. It is a topic that's not discussed often. There's a lot of, like, bad press around the menstrual cycle, you could say, but now in 2021, you can see that there's a lot more clubs discussing it, especially, from the back of, the USA women winning the World Cup, and everyone's like, what, why is it that they're so effective, and their training was adapted because of their menstrual cycle. Not every player is different, and every player, when it comes to their cycle, they'll have different sort of, like, symptoms, you could sort of say.
Yep.
So ever since then, a lot of clubs like Chelsea. I think Chelsea was like the first club in the
Yep.
women's Super League who said, you know what, let's start tracking women's
Saw that.
menstrual cycles.
Yep.
And it's, for me, thinking about it, I was just like, it's just small things, because it could be a simple thing as, okay, because you can lose quite a bit of blood during that time. If you then decide to eat more iron, for example, because you will lose iron, that could potentially help you to recover quicker.
Yeah.
It's just small little things like that. And if I can give that advice to my players, that could just be the difference between them just having a better day. It's just things like, when I look back into the way I probably handled players, it could have been the time of the month. They not necessarily have told me, but they could have just been having a bad time. And if I know, if now in the future, me and my future self, if I know that, okay, every month on the third week, roughly, this is when they're going through their cycle, that could just allow me to handle the situation better, instead of, let's say, kicking off and you're thinking, they're just in a mood, but they might not just be in a mood. It might be that they're actually in pain, something like that. So it's just me allowing myself to have better understanding as a coach, so I can then prepare, and the player can, obviously feel looked after.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and honestly, it's just I would say that it's you not closing yourself off to other things that could be happening. You're just like willing to adapt, I guess, to everything. Yeah. And I think that's one of the for me, it's like one of the most important things we can do as coaches is not, and we view it when I say adapt, it's obviously if you can adapt on the field, if you can adapt in practice, absolutely. But the biggest thing is if you're able to adapt the way that you think on and off the field, that's as big as anything, without a doubt. Tactics, technical, like, ability to coach and things like that. The ability to just adapt the way that you think and see things, that I think that's the kind of the thing that takes people a little bit even further, for sure.
Of course, totally agree.
So I do want to, before we get to our little games I have planned at the end, I do want to obviously ask you, because it is a big move for you, going to Hounslow. I almost said it wrong that time. Hounslow. I got it. Hounslow. What does that move mean for you? What do you see in the future with that? And then beyond that, what's kind of your goals, either there or maybe beyond?
Yeah, going to Hounslow, it's a massive move. So in terms of women's football in England, we sit 2 leagues below the Women's Super League.
Okay.
So for me, it's a massive move. It's very much a West London club. It's not a club full of money or a club that's well known. So for me, it's an even bigger project in the sense of how we recruit players and things like that. So I've very much been told what the deal is, and the main thing for this upcoming year is recruitment, getting players in. We won't necessarily attract the players who already play at that level, or let's say players who play in the Women's Super League Academy sort of level or under 21s. They won't necessarily want to come on loan to us, because we've had two back-to-back seasons where we've been bottom of the table. So we've been quite lucky enough to be able to stay up, because obviously we've had coronavirus. Obviously it's made the season null and void. So this season's very much about getting the right players in, players who just have the right attitude, want to really learn, and they're going to basically work hard, just to keep us in the vision. The main thing is just, can we stay up? Can we get points on the board? The more points, every time we get a point on the board, it just means confidence starts to grow and things like that. So
absolutely,
it's not an easy project. It's very much difficult. But for myself in the future, like, I very much want to get to the top of the game. If I was at Charlton before with the under 21s, that's very much development level. No one really cares if you win the league or anything like that, because that's, apart from the players and the coaching staff, no one really cares that you win the league. It's as simple as that. It's development. But now you're in the 3 point game. The 3 point game, like 3 points on a Sunday, is a must. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
So I've had a few training sessions, I've seen the ladies, obviously met the team and stuff like that, and we've had loads of discussions of what the plan is for next season. So from my experience, I've already listed a few things that need to be brought in so we can sort of like give ourselves that sort of professional touch.
Yep.
But very much it's the case is, can we get the right players in, and can we get it in front of off? So we're trying to get the recruitment done quite early, and get things off with a bang. Quite frankly.
There you go. Fair enough. I'm very excited, and obviously, I know that the move I can just see on Twitter is an exciting one for you. So it's really cool to see, and I definitely wish you luck in that. I also wish you luck in a little bit here, just because we got some games. Nothing crazy. This first part is more of an opinion thing, still a little, but we all know sometimes our opinions. If you have the wrong one, people don't like them necessarily. So there's where I wish you luck. And then I got one. I actually typically it's I do one game or the other. For today, I'm gonna add a little bonus trivia question into this game as well. That's a little bit designed for you. So the first game it's called Is It Tactical or Is It Foul? So I'll give you just like a topic. You tell me if you think it's tactical or if it's foul, and then you can obviously tell us why you think that, all right? The easiest one, number one, the Super League. And I do not mean the Women's Super League.
That's a foul. Absolute. Where's my red? I don't know that. Wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, it's tactical from another side, from other points of view as well. So me personally, I don't agree with it.
Right.
At first I didn't particularly understand what was going on and what the big fuss was, because when the news was sort of like, and it's been talked about for a few years, but I never really paid attention to it. And for the last couple of Sundays or whatever it was, it got announced that it's happening, and a few teams have,
that's crazy.
Decided they wanted to lead the Premier League and Serie A and La Liga and stuff, and I was just like, what's going on? So once I'd understood what was going on, I very much was like, no, I don't agree with this, because you're now taking away, for example, I'm a Tottenham supporter, so you're very much taking away a club which is based in Tottenham, who play against 19 other teams week in, week out, which I particularly love. And now we're just becoming an exhibition team playing teams just because we've got a bit of money, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I very much like the whole competition thing of, if you finish fourth, you get into the Champions League, but you have to qualify. You have to go through the qualifiers. If you win the league, you then go into the Champions League or whatever it may be. Things like that. So I do believe there should be. It'd have been nice if there was some sort of Super League where the winners of every league go into like a nice, into some sort of competition and they play each other. That would have been great.
Yeah,
I think it would be very exciting. But the way it's been gone about, I was like, no, I don't agree with it. For me, from looking at it and understanding it, it just seemed like it was all to do with money. It's as simple as that. It's massively to do with money.
No, 100%. I mean, that's all it comes down to. I mean, I'm a United supporter, and I was saying to somebody like I was like, it was a weird feeling. Like I literally was, and obviously I'm not from Manchester or anything like that, but like I picked the club in about 2003 when I was, like 8 years old, just watching them in the FA Cup. And I've been a fan ever since. Obviously, it started off great. The last decade has been a little rocky, but I couldn't even explain it, except for like I was like I'm genuinely heartbroken by the club, and then obviously you got to compartmentalize and just like, it's not Tottenham, it's not United, it's not Chelsea, it's not Arsenal, it's these the people that run the club. and
exactly.
and that's the problem. Unfortunately, and I've also said this is like a bit like we almost have to take a little bit of not us in particular, but just we have to kind of take a little bit of responsibility for kind of turning a blind eye because we were so enamored with the game that we were like, yeah, but we love like the money and how like it's coming in
Of
and
course,
when you turn that blind eye and you like kind of like, all right, you're spending money, let's kind of like loosen the leash on like what we allow
of
and
course,
money is kind of gonna just when they're getting a lot of money, the they're not gonna be like that's fine, we're content. No, they're gonna want more money, and so
of
then
course.
this is what happens. So when we allow the game to kind of gear towards money and away from like the competition and things like that, unfortunately, like it's never going to be a good end product. And now the great thing that we've seen is everyone kind of coming together and unifying on this. Like, no, this is an awful idea, and you guys do not like this. Isn't what we want, and it has been stopped. So that's the good news. But that's kind of where I was on the whole thing. So we're definitely on the same page for sure. And it's even worse that we both support clubs that were involved in it, without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. To
Oh,
be fair, I was this close to setting my Tottenham shirt on fire, but
I,
again, like you said, it's not Tottenham. It's the people who own and run them
yep,
that unfortunately made this decision.
yeah, 100%. So, my second one, and you'll like this. I'm also you probably can tell I'm a little bit of I love my football, but I love my my comic books and stuff like that. So, give 'em, the Sinister Six, which is a Spider-Man thing. So for anyone wondering, but obviously pertains to the Super League Six, should still get punished, even though they dropped out of the Super League.
I think they should get punished. And I know it's going to affect my team because financially it's a big hit, but I think they should get punished.
I
I think
uh, I agree, and I'm again. It would hurt my club, and we're playing well, but something. I feel like there has to be a precedent set. Like this can never happen again.
no, of course, because if they don't punish them, then basically it's going to it's going to happen again, but this time it might just happen for real.
Yeah.
So a message needs to be sent loud and clear that this is not tolerated. Basically,
No,
you know,
I would agree, and I mean obviously it's gonna try again. I mean you just look at Perez talking, and Barcelona said they're not. That he's a wild boy. he's he,
Perez, you will know Perez does what he wants.
oh my
He's
goodness.
he's that type of guy.
Absolutely. Um, staying in the same vein a little bit, not Super League, but one of the Super League teams, and I did actually know you were a Tottenham supporter, so definitely had to put this one in there. Is it tactical or is it foul for Tottenham to have been Jose 6 days before a final?
That's an absolute foul. It's an absolute foul. But at the same time, like it doesn't surprise me. Like Daniel Levy's known for this sort of stuff. Sacking Martin Yo at halftime in a game in a UEFA Cup game or Europa League, whatever it was at the time. Like it doesn't surprise me. Like don't get me wrong, Tottenham wasn't performing, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna turn around and say that Jose Mourinho being there would have allowed us to win on Sunday because I think we played awful.
Yep.
But at the same time, having Jose Mourinho on board, even if you decided to sack him after the game, at least it would have at least allowed us to be competitive in that game because Jose Mourinho is almost like Pep Guardiola's like kryptonite. Like he knows how to set up against them. So I'd at least been, let's at least keep him for this game. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, I guess if Mourinho then won a cup and Daniel Levy was already thinking about sacking him, it'd have been harder to get rid of him.
Yep.
So you just never really know with this thing. But I think it was a stupid move.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
There's so many rumors. Like obviously, one is that it was always going to happen, and it just and they did it. Whatever. The one was that morning he wouldn't take the players out to training, or he wouldn't go out to training. which part of me really wishes that is the case. Because obviously, I don't have ill will towards Jose, but obviously he didn't leave us the best, and obviously we would have like 4 more trophies if it wasn't for him at Chelsea. So yeah, but the one thing you can say about Jose is like the guy loves the game, and he's pretty big on like. He's just pretty big on like the competitive nature of everything, so it wouldn't surprise me. So that would be nice. And then obviously, yeah, I have the conspiracy basically is like they got rid of him because they knew they needed to get rid of him, but they knew also that if anybody could just turn up for one game against Pep Guardiola, even though Man City's been ravaging everybody, it is still Jose Mourinho. And if he wins a trophy, then they have to keep him. They might they'd have a decision to make, and they just didn't want to put themselves in that
exactly.
game. So who knows? Who knows? We'll never know until Jose's basically out fully done with his contract, and he's able to tell it all in his next book, probably. So
exactly, that's what I'm waiting for.
Absolutely. All right, back to this. Of course, it's gonna. You already know these questions. It's gonna kind of be. This is the biggest story in the world, and for a reason. So, I think I know your answer. This is a pretty easy one, but the protest to get the owners out of the Super League clubs. Not necessarily the ones to stop the Super League, but the ones that have continued after to try to get the owners out. Is it tactical or is it foul for you?
Tactical. I basically I do believe that like if it was just a situation of all right, cool, the club's dropped out and it was just left as that, then cool. But the fact that they're still pushing, I think they need to get. I think they need to get these owners out because for me personally, from my point of view, I don't. That they're not helping the game. No. It just that Super League was all created in terms of financial gain. And don't get me wrong, like yes, I'd love for Tottenham to be in a better financial position to be able to turn around and buy some quality players, etc. But again, I want it all based on merit. Yeah. So for me, it's just like, yeah, I just feel like, nah, we need to get rid of the poison of these powerful people in football. Some of these powerful people in football, and get rid of them.
I couldn't agree more. And I guess in tie into that, I know like there's been like the talk of the 50+1 model that's used in Germany. I know it was a big talking point, like the mayor even of Manchester, and I think the mayor of Liverpool as well, talked about possible legislation to try to move towards that and different things like that. So, yeah, anybody who I think is a threat to the game and like what it stands for, like you just don't belong in the game. And I think that unfortunately with the Super League thing, I think all those owners kind of proved that they are not in it for the best interest of of football. They're in it for the best interest of themselves. And
100%. So that's when you've got, to be fair, it shouldn't be a surprise to most of us. Like when you've got owners who come in and bought your club at massive high prices and already start spending the big bucks and stuff like that. Moves like this shouldn't be surprising to any fan. I'm not surprised by Tottenham jumping in it. For me, the smarter move would have been, all right, let's stay in the league. Let all these other clubs jump ship.
Go get your Premier League.
And then we probably could win the Premier League, and the FA Cup and the League Cup would have more of a chance. But no, you decided to jump in a competition that you would probably finish bottom in. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, and I mean, I got an even better one. I mean, we have United. We can't be surprised either. We have owners that have an NFL team, but then bought our club on debt. Didn't actually spend a big amount of money, and then they've still not paid off the debt in 16 years. So, not really that surprised.
Exactly.
So it's crazy. All right, a little bit more of a less of a downer topic. Got to go back to women's football for this last one. I had to give a little shout out to one of our players though, because in one of the recent rankings I saw, she was considered the number one player. But is Sam Mewis the best player in women's football right now?
Say that one more time. Sam who?
Sam Mewis from Man City.
Oh, yeah.
So is that tackle or foul that she's the best player in the world? Oh, it's tough.
Oh, God. It's a difficult one because, oh, man. She for me, in my eyes, she's a quality player. But also, at the same time, you've got very good players in, Frank Kirby. Oh my gosh! Wow, that's a difficult one for me. I don't know. I don't know. Oh God, I feel like I'm going to sit on the fence with this one.
You're sitting on the fence, not tactical, not foul, just right there in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know if I can give an answer for that one.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna tap out on that one.
all right. I'll let you off on that one. No, Sam Mewis is great. I personally, she's not my favorite U.S. Women's National Team player. Not because I think that not that I doubt anything about her. Just there's other players I like. Actually, her teammate Rose Lavelle I'm a massive fan of Rose, who I think who actually was the best player in the last World Cup. She got voted third, but
Yeah.
If you've listened to this, if you've heard any episodes when I've talked about the U.S. Women's National Team, I'm not a hater, but I need to make sure that we curb our our level of hype for Megan Rapinoe, because I think she's good. I just think that she's, in the grand scheme of things, I think she's more towards the middle of the pack when it comes to actual.
You know what? I have to agree. I have to agree on one. That's the thing. Like, I think she is she's a good player.
Yeah.
I just don't think I don't think I'd personally turn around and go, you know what? She's world class or she's in the top 3 or something like that. I just think that she's probably a good team leader in terms of the team that she's in.
Absolutely.
Great leader, etc. But I just wouldn't necessarily turn around and say that she's a world class player or the best of the bunch.
Yeah, she's I'm trying to think who I can consider in the men's game. I'm trying to think of his name. I think he played for Bayer Leverkusen. He was a good player, amazing on the set piece. Didn't really provide much else. Played number 10. I can't think of his name right now, but it wasn't that long ago. I think he went to Italy or whatever. I'll think of it after this, of course, but
number 10. When's it?
I can't think of it right now. Maybe it was not a 10. He might have been a winger, like an inverted winger. But either way.
Okay.
That's what.
It's on the tip of my tongue, to be fair.
Yeah. That's kind of what she is to me. Obviously on a set piece. She gets some decent production in the World Cup. Outside of that, she doesn't actually get a ton of production, but she did well in that World Cup. I'm not going to deny that. She's a good player, but yeah, I am. I'm not. But Rose, I absolutely love Rose, and it helps that I have a little connection to her. I've never met her, but one of my really good friends is good friends with her because they went where he went to college. She's from that hometown, and so they got to know. And so, everything I've ever heard about her is that she's just this really cool person too. So it's even more of a reason to like her. So
exactly.
There we go. All right. Last thing before we get out of here, I have a trivia question for you.
Okay, cool.
All right. There's only been one Jamaican player for Tottenham in their history. Who is it?
Listen, oh gosh.
I told you it pertains to you.
And this is the worst thing about it, is I'm a Tottenham supporter and I'm Jamaican.
I know.
And
I'll tell you, it wasn't that long ago that he played for Tottenham either. It's pretty recent.
No.
And I'm not going to say he played a ton because he didn't, but he definitely played for Tottenham. Actually I think he came up through their academy for a little while.
Wow. Okay.
He's played more for Jamaica than he played for Tottenham.
Oh man, you're killing me. All right, you know what? Just tell me who it is.
Simon Dawkins.
Oh my gosh, no. You know what? It's crazy because his name was always creeping up on Football Manager, like back in the day. I remember he was in the reserve team, and to be fair, I used to sell him to get money into the club.
There you
He
go.
really wasn't that good. But yeah, Simon Dawkins, yes, okay. I remember that name. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he didn't really play for Tottenham. He was.
He played a couple games.
Yeah, but he's not. You can't really say that you play for for Tottenham if you haven't played a certain amount of games in the first team. He played for the reserve team.
You play one game for the team. You get to listen. If you play one game for Tottenham, you play 1 minute of one game for Tottenham. You're not telling everybody you played for Tottenham.
No.
I am. I am.
Not for 1 minute. If it was a game, then all right.
All right. But he definitely played. He played a couple games and he played some minutes.
Like 1 minute's like half a stat.
I'm just talking. I'm talking about like just us in general. But he actually played some real games. I imagine they probably weren't even real games. They were probably more or less like little cup games or whatever it was. But
yeah, I think he featured in like one or two sort of like League Cup games, but
yep.
I don't think it was. Yeah, he didn't really have a feedback at the club.
I did say he played more for Jamaica than he played for Tottenham.
No, you did. But to be fair, even though I knew he was Jamaican, he just didn't stand up. He didn't really stand out in my head because he didn't play many games.
Yeah,
and I guess that was the clue. But yeah, it just didn't work out. Simon Dawkins.
Sorry, you couldn't get that one. Usually it's only 5. Usually it's 5. So you only had one to get to. To be fair, you only had one chance to answer as well. So
yeah,
it was.
That was definitely a foul on my side.
For sure. Well, before we get out of here, what I want to do is just kind of give you a chance to obviously let everybody know where to find you. Give your any last words that you have, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Anthony Dwayne M1, or you can find me on Instagram, Anthony Dwayne Murray. Main thing is, guys, for all the coaches listening and stuff like that, main thing is just keep educating yourself, keep grinding, know your worth, as I was saying earlier. And make sure, don't allow anyone to tell you no. I've had a lot of no's in my life, and the yes does come, but the main thing is just keep grinding. If you do need any support or anything like that, feel free to hit me up. I'm always open to sharing, my experiences or giving advice and stuff like that. And, again, I want to thank Kyle for having me on.
Anthony, it's my pleasure, without a doubt. And I definitely don't think this will be the last time we talk, and I look forward to the next time for sure. So until next time, guys, I appreciate it. It's been Tactical Foul. Kyle Grew, Anthony Murray. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.